All right, so today we're going to get into a story about a trip that was pretty much doomed from the start. This isn't just your average travel story. It's a masterpiece of terrible planning, a comedy of errors, and honestly, a perfect guide on how not to plan a trip to South America.
Okay, so where does a story like this even begin? It begins, as all great disasters do, in a group chat at 3 in the morning. This message from a guy named Zach about a mythical city with golden elephants and no taxes, well, it's the perfect setup for the absolute chaos that's about to unfold.
You have to understand, this was never really a trip with a plan. It was more like a slow motion collision of four completely different people all trying to steer in opposite directions. It was a plan born from pure chaos.
And this slide just says it all, doesn't it? In one corner, you've got Oliver, the sensible one, with a perfectly organized guidebook for a nice, calm trip to Iceland. And in the other corner, you have Zach, whose entire plan for a multi-country tour of a continent was literally scribbled on a napkin. So let's meet our cast of characters, because this group dynamic was basically engineered for failure. You've got Oliver, the reluctant adult, Elliot, the obsessive planner who worries about humidity's effect on morale, Zach, the agent of pure chaos, and then there's Max, who's just an enigma. His one piece of advice? Crates are sturdy. Thanks, Max. So, with the group totally gridlocked, how did they finally make a decision? Well, they did the most sensible thing possible. They let a randomizer app on a phone decide their fate. And so, the long trip was born, a 3-month, low-budget journey built around a bus company that, and I'm quoting here, doesn't have a website. I mean, really, what could possibly go wrong? And that brings us to the departure. Now, you'd think the disaster would wait for them to at least land in South America, but nope, the chaos ambushed them before they even left the country, at passport control, of all places. So the passport officer asks Zach a super simple, totally standard question. Purpose of your visit. And Zach's brain just short circuits. He panics and blurts out the first thing he can think of. Holiday, and rest, and toilets. The officer, just completely baffled, can only repeat that last word back to him. Now, a normal person might try to laugh it off or correct themselves, but not Zach. Oh no, he doubles down. He insists his primary, urgent reason for international travel is, in fact, the toilets. An emergency, even. And this right here, this is peak Zach. This is where you see his true talent for making any situation 10 times more awkward. He doesn't just need a toilet, you see. He needs to, and I quote, release something. It's been fermenting. Just try to picture that poor officer's face. Somehow, and I have no idea how, they actually made it through security. Which brings us to the real star of our show, the bus. And let me tell you, this thing wasn't just a mode of transport, it was a four-wheeled omen of doom. I mean, the description says it all. It was the only bus at the terminal. One headlight was shining way brighter than the other, as if it was trying to make up for its lazy friend. The engine was already making these sad little coughing sounds. Alarm bells are ringing for everyone. Everyone, that is, except for Zach. So, of course, the inevitable happens. The engine sputters and then just dies. And what does Zach, our resident eternal optimist, have to say? Yeah, that's normal. Buses do that when they're nearly there. Here's a little spoiler for you. They were not nearly there. So what Zach saw as just a little delay, well, it quickly spiraled into a full-on survival situation. Welcome to our next chapter, Stranded in the Rain. So what was actually wrong with the bus? The driver's official explanation was, let's say, less than helpful. It involved a lot of vague gesturing at the engine, the road, and the very concept of distance. His technical diagnosis was that a part connected to another part shouldn't be moving, but sometimes does. Oh, great. Crystal clear. This timeline really shows you the rapid descent into madness. At hour 1, everyone's still kind of optimistic. By hour 5, it's pouring rain. By hour 12, it's pitch black and the forest is making noises. And by the 24-hour mark, morale has completely cratered. Elliot, the planner, has actually run out of paper for his risk assessment. That's when you know you're in trouble. So to cope, Elliot tries to establish some order by just stating facts. But his facts are just terrifying. Fact 1, we are alone. Fact 2, this bus is stationary. Fact 3, forests statistically contain animals. You know, instead of calming everyone down, he's basically just narrating a horror movie out loud.
and leave it to Oliver to sum up the pure misery of their new reality. Their grand adventure across a continent had officially devolved into this, being literally trapped in a metal box that smells like an old gym sock factory, where everything is broken, the dream was dead.
But just when all hope seemed lost, a sound finally came from the forest. It was the rescue. But, well, let's just say it wasn't quite the dramatic, movie-style rescue they were hoping for. Which really makes you wonder, right? How does a rescue arrive quietly? Because, help doesn't always show up with sirens and flashing lights like it does in the movies. Sometimes it just kind of appears. And that's exactly what happened here. Help arrived not with a heroic roar, but in small, muddy, and deeply unimpressive vehicles. Their knights in shining armor were just a couple of tired-looking guys in trucks that looked just as defeated as our heroes felt.
So after finally being dropped off at a hotel, soaked, exhausted, and completely demoralized, Zach, of course, has to get the last word. He offers his signature phrase for the entire trip, grinning like he just solved the mysteries of the universe. Basically there.
Elliot, ever the planner, couldn't just let it go. He had to run the final numbers. They were behind schedule by about 10 hours, and that's not even counting, everything else. But in the end, it was Oliver who summed up the only victory that truly mattered. Forget the schedule, forget the disaster. They were finally in a bed. A bed that wasn't moving, wasn't wet, and wasn't covered in mystery socks. A very low bar, for sure, but a victory nonetheless. So what should you take away from this whole beautiful mess? Well, as Zach's voice echoes in Oliver's mind one last time, maybe it's that even the most chaotic journeys have a destination, even if it's just so one person gets to say, "I told you so."